I actually went to the mastermind 2 years ago, right? And well, Man of Mind. And it was around the time that one of the guys there was fighting the government in High Court about the banding, tax banding per unit.
Do you want to just explain that, Jack? Explain the tax banding thing.
Yeah, so as HMO landlords, we typically take family homes and split them up into lettable rooms. As we're entrepreneurial and we like to maximize the investment, sometimes it makes it more profitable. And we do this as much as we can, where you put en suites in every rooms, and even like Stu might even put kitchenettes and ensuite in every rooms. The council cottoned onto this and thought we're missing out on revenue here because I'm charging £2,000 a year in council tax for that property, but there's 7 people, 7 bathrooms, and 7 kitchenettes. So they started in certain boroughs banding it per lockable bedroom. So this particular guy in Portsmouth, he had 80 something beds, and he went from paying, I think it was something like, well, a bit of a guess, but probably like 28 grand in council tax a year as one of his OPEX costs. Well, actually, it's more of a cost of sales, but one of his cost of sales costs a year to then get banded, which then went to the smallest rate of banding for the unit, but times it by 7, for example, for a property. And his cost went from like 27 grand to like 80 grand in 1 year. It was borough by borough. So where we operate, it didn't come into play. Maybe just less maturity, and I think there's a balance of, if it's a very established area and you've got people in the council that don't like HMOs, that was the sort of culmination of them fighting this. And you can kind of see where it comes from, because 7 adults, 7 bathrooms, 7 kitchenettes, should they really be paying the same council tax as a family of 3? So
Yeah,
there
but
is
on that,
probably...
up
Sorry?
to 6, I never think that was ever going to stand, because in my opinion, having a 6-bed HMO, which is obviously below the large HMO, I mean the large HMO stuff, I think that's out for the jury to decide whether they should start cutting them up. But I think anything under 6, and what I specialise in, what me specialise in mostly in the south, is that having a bedroom that's been a house that's been designed to optimise 6 people to have those facilities. It's still, how can you discriminate those 6 where next door there will be a family? There could be 3 or 4 kids and 2 adults. I mean, it is a large family. So, yes, they are adults living independent lives, but in the amount of bodies, I don't think that the council could really charge up to a 6-bed HMO per bed. They were trying it.
It's been fought and won in court now, so it's not in play. It's not going to be a risk at this current moment in time. If you look at service accommodation, they typically convert them to business rates because it's more commercial. But anyway, when I was at the mastermind, that we talked about that for about 5 hours, and it was really useful to have other people, other businesses. Like, what environment, if you were like a steel worker, what environment would you be in where you could meet up with 20 other steel workers and talk about your pain points in different areas? So it was really, really useful. And actually, our portfolio, when we started building our portfolio, we knew about the banding. And the big argument is the justification between separating units. So a single dwelling, how do you categorize a single dwelling? And councils were sort of taking advantage of it not being that clear because it was grey, until typically you then go through law or any cases that have been won, and this is the case that's been won. But anyway, this bloke won a representative. He actually won an award that year at the HMO Awards that's run by Coho, sort of fighting the case. I think he was obviously fighting the case because he was 60 grand worse off, but by virtue, he helps everyone else out. So it's super useful to be there and present at the HMO Man of Mind for that. And our portfolio, we actually, the early days, we did quite a lot of off suites and shared bathrooms to de-risk it for ourselves, because we saw this going on. We saw people going, oh, my council tax has gone from X to Y. This house is not profitable anymore. And it's certainly interesting. But there's a housing crisis. We're fixing it, and then you're taxing us. So it was kind of unfair in retrospect. But
just for anyone who might try and steelman that from the other side, to me, the upside to the council is that we're helping them meet their housing targets at private capital cost, by being able to house more adults, more workers within their areas, without them needing to build more roads, more houses, more infrastructure. So there should have always been a balance. I actually am one of those that thinks there should be a specific HMO banding, which should probably be higher than a C3 house, but not that much higher, because there should be some kind of offset to appreciate that the private sector is helping an area that otherwise has quite a lot of defunct large houses that families don't really need. That's what we see in the north. They're just large houses where people just aren't moving into them because they don't want to take on a large house worth of utility costs, worth of there's not the families there to do it. A lot of them are moving into the new build housing. So the old Victorians are just getting defunct and they need a heavy refurb, and private families can't afford to come in and do the refurb. So they're going to move to, investor lens appetite for converting them either into a buy to let or into a HMO. And I think it's good that the case law is now in, because it's appreciating that the private sector also is contributing. Because we've fought the council on a banding on a eight bed HMO where they tried to hit us for every room, and it lasted for about a year. And then this case law came in, and then it got abolished. So yeah.